I'm Eduardo Ochoa, Provost, and to my right is Scott Miller, Chair of the Senate, ELISA Velasquez, and Scott is co-chair of the President's Diversity Council with me. ELISA Velasquez, who is a member of the President's Diversity Council as well as the Ad Hoc Diversity Committee. No?
The volume?
Hello? Yeah.
I'm working on it.
All right. And Barbara L McCaffrey, next to Elisa, who is also co-chair of the Ad Hoc Diversity Committee. And Irma Jean Sims, who is chair of the CFA Affirmative Action Committee. Today's session is primarily informational. We want the community to be brought up to date on what all of these groups have been working on, and also direct your attention to other forums in which there is a greater opportunity for dialogue and interaction and input into the work of all of these groups. But we will have an opportunity for Q&A here as well, but the main thrust today is to share with the campus what's been going on in this area, because you may have been wondering what we were all up to. So just a little bit of history as background. We had, not too long ago, we had a visit by WASC, which was the first of two visits in the process of reaccreditation of the campus. The so-called capacity and preparatory review. And among the issues that WASC urged us to pay more attention to and focus on was diversity. And so lots of different issues that were pointed out in that report and that we were certainly aware of on the campus. And we're working on a number of fronts, all of us. But diversity is certainly one that I think we have really come together with a great degree of consensus about the need to become more proactive and more systematic and intentional about improving diversity, enhancing diversity in our campus, and turning it into an asset for the institution. As a result of that, as well as it should be said, the vote of no confidence, which did include a reference to this issue as well, a number of actions took place. The President formed the Diversity Council, which is basically charged with developing a comprehensive diversity plan for the institution that would address the issues of outreach and retention of diverse faculty, staff, and students, that it would also look for ways to enhance the diversity in the curriculum and multicultural competence in the academic programs. And the third one was working on creating an inclusive and welcoming campus community. So those are the overall objectives of that group. And the group has a very comprehensive set of members, which includes administrators, faculty, staff, students, and members of the external community as well. Then the Ad Hoc Committee was formed by the Academic Senate to also follow up on this issue. I'll let the co-chairs of the Ad Hoc Diversity Committee talk a little bit about their work and their membership and so forth. And also, as a result of this issue really becoming the focus of the campus, there has been also work that's been sort of reinvigorated in the specific question of being more effective at attracting and retaining diverse faculty. And that's an issue that the CFA Affirmative Action Committee has been working in close collaboration with Faculty Affairs, unit in my office. So as you can see, there's kind of across the board, there is a renewed commitment to enhancing diversity in our campus and making it work for the excellence of our institution. I'm going to just give you a little bit of a little more background on what the President's Diversity Council has been doing specifically, and then I'll turn it over to Scott and the rest of the panel to brief you in on some of the other activities. President's Diversity Council, even before it first met, a subset of that committee attended a diversity conference that was national in scope and was conveniently held at San Diego, was it? Yeah. Or Long Beach. Long Beach. It was Long Beach, that's right. By the American Association of Colleges and Universities. So a group of us went down there and were very, very stimulated and invigorated by what we heard there, and we've brought some of those best practices and new developments in the field back with us, and it's really been helpful. We then had several meetings in which we spent some time really first getting to know each other because the membership was in fact diverse, and we all brought different perspectives and histories to this issue, and so we spent some time getting to know each other and bonding a little bit as a council. Then we turned to the question of diversity itself and what we understood diversity to be and how we should sort of frame it and think about it in the context of our institution. And finally, we turned to the work of following up on the charge for the committee, and so we broke up into subgroups, and we created 3 groups that were pretty much along the lines of the 3 broad areas that the President had charged the Council to pursue, but we also created a 4th group and a 4th area for us to work on of figuring out what it would take in terms of an infrastructure to support diversity, administrative resource infrastructure, support diversity across the campus. So those are the 4 areas that these groups have been working on, and they have in fact developed some preliminary sets of goals and objectives. Then we came back and we've shared with the full group what that work was, and what we plan to do next is to hold a campus-wide retreat on diversity, which should take place April 3rd, I believe. And we have some handouts about that. We've got 2 kinds of handouts, some in color and some in black and white. The color ones are very expensive. So I would urge you to take those only if you have a very specific place in mind for posting it. If you need one for yourself, we also have some black and white Xerox copies. It's going to happen from 10 to 3 in the Recreational Center in the Niagara Studio, which is a large place. And we will have lunch in between the sessions that go from 10 to 3. So it should be a good, and the entire campus community is invited, and we're asking for RSVP so we know how many lunch boxes to buy, to have, and look forward to seeing all of you there. Okay, so that's kind of where the President's Diversity Council has gone so far. Let me turn it now to Scott. Maybe he can talk a little bit about the faculty diversity retreat and anything else you want to say.
Not much. I think Eduardo really covered the most of the juicy stuff from the Diversity Council. We did host, as I think many of you know, a faculty retreat, which was really quite wonderful in my assessment and the assessment of many people who were there, where we were informed by one of our colleagues from San Jose State about the state of their development of a diversity strategic plan. And that gave us a lot of clues, and I think that ELISA and Barbara might talk a little bit about how that's informed the goals for the meetings that are going to be happening next week. I think the only other thing that I want to say is just what a privilege it's been for me as chair to be at the center of so many of these incredibly rich conversations. It has been far and away the richest element of my chair year, and it's been a rich year, I should say. But I guess I would second what Eduardo said, that you know, my sense, my sort of global sense is that we don't always agree on a number of specific things. Like, for instance, one issue that I might talk about on April 3rd is the question of the definition of diversity, what we mean when we talk about diversity. I don't think that we agree on what that term means in some ways, but there is no question in my mind that the entire campus is motivated right now to improve on a number of different markers. And I'm seeing more and more hopeful signs that faculty, staff, students, and administrators are taking this very, very personally. And let me just add my voice of support to that. I take this very, very personally. I'll say here what I've said several other places, and that is that I assume that I am part of the problem until I know that I'm part of the solution, whatever the problem is. I'm not alone in that. I really, really am seeing a thoughtful spirit on the part of the faculty, especially, but everyone on campus. I would say, hazard to say, from the president on down, about this vital, vital issue to our mission, to our future, to who we want to be. So I invite you into that spirit, to ask, like John Kennedy, not what the President's Diversity Council or the Senate Ad Hoc Committee or the CFA can do for you, but what you can do for these committees. That's, I guess, the thing that I would really want you to walk out of here knowing that I said. Thank you. My colleagues.
Elisa, you could speak through those.
Okay. We'll see. My name is ELISA Velasquez, and I'm in the psychology department, and I have been deeply committed to these aspects of diversity for all the years that I have been here at Sonoma State, to the point that one of my students who graduated 3 years ago, she says, Elisa, you know what? Middle name should be diversity. You should be Elisa Diversity Velasquez. And that was a great compliment. So I'm co-chairing this ad hoc task force on diversity that was originally proposed and organized by the Senate. And also I am involved with the President's Diversity Council and also with the CFA. So you see, diversity. So I try to represent all my experiences and my students' experiences. And I have been conducting research with our students to hear their voices and their experiences and their recommendations. So this is a report that maybe I will make it accessible to everybody. So we know their voices, and we know their suggestions, and we know the experiences. So I'm very happy that now we will move forward beyond just listening and validating sometimes their experiences. I think that we're ready, and I'm very happy to witness the institutional commitment in this agenda and focus. We were charged, and I will let Barbara to explain the charges of the Senate to us, and then I will take over back again to tell you how we're going to start collecting data and hearing the voices of everybody here on campus regarding ideas, experiences, and suggestions.
Play a little tag team with the microphones. I'm Barbara L McCaffrey. I teach in the Hutchins School of Liberal Studies. I started on this campus in 1980 as the Director of Affirmative Action and had that role, although slightly different titles, for approximately 20 years. So I have a little bit of the institutional history of how we may have responded in the past, how in some ways we created an infrastructure of support, some of the ways in which we were maybe less successful. And now I'm very pleased to be involved in the Ad Hoc Committee in trying to address a number of things. And our charge is very, very specific. As a matter of fact, our task force was given a year in which to accomplish its task, and almost immediately we realized that the job was far larger than the number of people around the table available to do it. But the committee has been asked to do a comprehensive review of the history and current status of diversity in Sonoma State at all levels. It includes curriculum, faculty, staff, and student activities for recruitment, retention, promotion, graduation. It includes looking at institutional programming, funding sources, and administrative support. We've also been asked to expand our look at diversity to also include socioeconomic status, not just the traditional markers of gender, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, disability, veteran status. And I probably left out one, but Elisa will help me if I have. And we are charged to do a report to the Senate of our findings. We've also been asked to hold regular open sessions to facilitate a campus conversation about diversity and establish a website. And now I really would like to turn it back over to Elisa, because the next event that's coming up afterward are a series of forums that specifically get at this request that we hold open conversations. And then I'll come back.
So I hope that you have seen that poster about diversity. My students this morning complained that they haven't seen that except because I'm telling them that they wouldn't know. So please, I would encourage you to pick one of those flyers. It was sent by Susan K. Shack as an attachment, and so you can print it yourself. And advertisement. This is the time and the opportunity for everybody to come to this space that we have created to share those experiences. We will have the first one on Tuesday, March 24th, and it's almost like a week. March 24th, March 25th, and then again on the 26th. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, in the multipurpose room, and it's 2 hours. And the emphasis of this, or the dynamics, the process of these open forums is framed by something that is called the open space technology. And those of you who came to the faculty retreat already experienced what it is. And everybody will have the opportunity to talk about about a topic of diversity, the way they understand it, and that is close to their heart. But to facilitate the process, we have identified 6 major groups, and then we left open some tables for people to take another way to understand diversity. The traditional ones that Barbara already said is gender and parenting-related issues, race, ethnicity, religion, socioeconomic status, and classism, sexual orientation, disability, including medical condition. Open topics that people can take if that's what they want to talk about, and that's the way I understand diversity is cultural, political affiliation, veteran status, age, and however people understand diversity. And they will have that opportunity to create the space to join others with similar interests. And every participant will have 2 opportunities to discuss 2 different topics. So for about 40 minutes, people talk about one topic, and we guide them into answering 4 major questions. Like something good that happened to you here at Sonoma State, something that it was not so good, and what are your ideas about what we can do for the future? If we were successful, what would you see happening? And all this data will help the President's Diversity Council to include those recommendations as part of the Inclusive Excellence Plan that we are developing. And I want to recognize the work of the subcommittee is Karen Brodsky. She has, been working very, all of us have been working very strongly as a team to get all this together. Sandra Shans, Helen Kallenbach, and Joy Suzuki. So we are the subcommittee within the Ad Hoc Committee. And we are just very excited. We tested it with my students last week, so we revised whatever we needed to revise to make it more appropriate for students. And I just want to share with you something that my students disclosed in the process of piloting the questions. They were afraid, and that's the word they used, that in the process of this gathering of information and faculty being present, that they are afraid that they may say something that upsets somebody or is taken in a different way that they really intended it, and they're afraid of some sort of retaliation back to them. And that tells me something that is happening in their experiences. So I encourage all of us in positions of power to be mindful of that dynamics, differential power that the students perceive, and somehow reassure them or behave in a way that they really feel safe. And so that would be one of the important things to remember in the open forums. If it's real or not, we're not questioning it. It's real if they feel like that. It's real for them. So it's just a little reminder to all of us in positions of power that we need to be mindful about that.
And there are two other subcommittees at work this semester. The first is a subcommittee looking at issues relating to the recruitment and retention of students. And the members, Sharon Cabanas is heading up that effort. I won't name all the names because we have it available on our website. And the other committee is looking at faculty and staff data. So our hope is to have really comprehensive sense of where we are right now and what our community feels are the issues that are of concern, and also the solutions that they think we should move forward on. And we will embed that in a report to the Senate. Our hope is to have that report in draft form by the end of this semester and in final form early in the fall. And that next semester, we will take the time, and maybe even next year, addressing the other piece, which is curriculum. And that's a very large piece. And the majority of our membership are members of the instructional faculty, so that we have that base. We have representatives from each of the schools, from the library, from student affairs, who will assist us in that process. There are a couple of other things I just want to mention because we've also been involved in a number of other things. Because we exist, we've been asked to take a key role in looking at additional areas. Early in the fall semester, we're involved in a resolution to the Senate about some hate crimes. We had some faculty offices that were being defaced because there were signs in support of having a safe campus for gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered, and queer students or questioning students. And we've also been working on a series of recommendations at the request of the Vice President for Administration and Finance about the future for the Center for Gender and Culture and Sexuality. And as part of that, we're looking at what used to be part of the components that made up that center, and how do we move forward? So we're serving all three of the student communities that center was set up to serve. Women students, multicultural students, and students from diverse cultural backgrounds, maybe even international backgrounds, and our gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered students. So we're really trying to work also collaboratively with the other committees in ensuring, and this was the Senate's greatest concern, that we were not duplicating effort. So we have tried to say, step back from things that the other committees are doing and move into the spaces that are specific to our charge, since there is some overlap.
I'd just like to introduce myself. My name is Irma Jean Sims. I'm in the School of Education. I teach in elementary education classes, and I'm here today because I am the chair of the California Faculty Association's Affirmative Action Committee. As you know, the California Faculty Association is the union that represents the faculty here at Sonoma State University. And we're concerned and working very hard on issues around recruiting, hiring, and retaining a diverse faculty. I wanted to share a few of the activities that we've been involved in. In October, we held a workshop for the entire Sonoma State University community. The title of that workshop in October was Rhetoric or Action, the Way Forward for Diversity at Sonoma State University. We had a distinguished panel who shared their expertise around issues of diversity. We started out that workshop with ELISA Velasquez, who talked about the human side of diversity and how important it is to be aware and sensitive and cognitive of diverse issues, not only in working with our students, but in using the curriculum with multicultural perspectives. We followed up her presentation with Barbara L McCaffrey, who talked about the history of affirmative action and diversity on this campus, sharing some of the gains and some of the perceived losses around the diversity effort. Her presentation was followed by Peter Phillips, who shared for the first time his preliminary work on the making of a public Ivy, which he has finalized that report. It was partially funded by the California Faculty Association. And in the report, he shared the composition of our student body, which he found in that study to be the whitest and one of the richest of student bodies in all of the CSU campuses. He also shared some concerns about where we're doing our recruiting at, and so that has been quite a buzz on this campus, and it's also refocused a lot of our attention on where we recruit and how we obtain our students and the need for diversifying the student body. His presentation was followed by Derek Pierre, who is the ASI president, who shared some issues and concerns that the students have about diversity, and he talked a lot about some issues related to classroom situations and also some concerns that the students have about the residence halls and student clubs on campus and programming for those students. Our final presenter was Cecil Canton. He's a full professor at CSU Sacramento. He's also the Associate Vice President for the Affirmative Action Council for CFA, and he talked about recruiting, hiring, and retention of a diverse faculty, and gave us some suggestions on ideas how we might do that. That was our fall activities. At the end of that workshop, we asked each of the participants, there were 38 members of the Sonoma State University community there, and we asked each of them what they would like to see as the next step in diversity at this campus. And the consensus was that there was a need to really take some action. So I'm very excited about the activities that we have and the work that we're doing in collaboration with the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Diversity. I also sit on that committee and I'm working on the data collection portion of it. And I'm very pleased to be working with the Faculty Affairs Office. I shared on March 13th some preliminary guidelines that we have developed for enhancing the recruitment, hiring, and retention of diverse faculties with the Faculty Affairs Office. And so we're working very closely with them to have a workshop in the fall for department chairs and faculty that are involved in faculty hiring search committees. So we've got some recommendations and some sharing that we'd like to do with that. We also have been helping to educate the Sonoma State University community around the permissible actions for affirmative action in light of Proposition 209. There's oftentimes some misconception that because of Proposition 209, we're no longer allowed to engage in affirmative action on this campus. The reality is quite different. Proposition 209 does not prohibit us from engaging in affirmative actions to diversify our faculty and student body. As a federal contractor, we have a responsibility to follow state law and institute affirmative actions that would help to diversify the faculty throughout the state of California, certainly here Sonoma State University. So we've been sharing that good word and good news about the permissible actions that we can get involved in. One of the things that we're very excited about, and I want to share this with you as well, is the fact that we have established affirmative action caucuses at Sonoma State. And the affirmative action caucuses are designed to better serve our faculty and give them a contact person that they can approach and share suggestions, ideas, and comments about diversity issues at the Sonoma State. So I'd just like to share the names of the contact people. They are your contacts here at Sonoma State. They also will be sitting on the state councils, those caucuses as well. And so for the African American Caucus, I'm very pleased to be a contact person for the African American faculty on this campus. Pat Escaldo, who is in the athletic department, is also the African American Caucus and a contact person. Asian and Pacific Islanders Caucus is our representative is Rashmi Singh, who is here in the audience today, and she will be working very closely with the Asian and Pacific Islander faculty here at Sonoma State. Our Disability Caucus is being conducted by Kathy Kroll from the English department, and she is available to talk to any faculty members who have concerns and issues or want to make suggestions about disability issues on this campus. Our Latino Chicano Caucus is being headed by ELISA Velasquez and Ellie Galvan Hard from the Education Department. LBGT Caucus, Birch Moonwoman and Peter Phillips are heading up that caucus. The Native American Caucus is Steve Wilson. He'd be the contact person on issues in that area. We're looking for somebody who'd be interested in working with us around veterans issues to be the contact person for the Veterans Caucus. The Women's Caucus, Kathy Kroll has agreed to be available to women who want to talk about issues about diversity. The Teacher Education Caucus is being, I'm the representative for that. So we see these caucuses as a great way for faculty to share their ideas and concerns around diversity with us, which we and then in turn will share with the other two groups on campus that are working on diversity issues here, and also with the Affirmative Action Joint Council, which represents 23 CSU campuses here in the state of California. So we're excited about the new guidelines that we're working on to diversify the faculty, ways to increase the applicant pool, ways to make the hiring search committee process one that will attract and help to retain a diverse faculty here at SSU.
Thank you, Professor Sims. One thing I neglected to mention that is another indication of how widespread the commitment to moving forward on diversity is across the campus is the fact that the Management Development Academy, which is a program that's co-sponsored by, the Administration and Finance Division and the Academic Affairs Division, is and it's geared to developing professionally the members of the MPP team in Sonoma State, has made diversity its theme for the entire year. And we have had the benefit of a very respected, well-respected consultant in this area that is helping us with that, with those workshops that are taking place throughout the year. And also a little bit more tangentially, but also significant, is that in the conversations that are emerging about how to target the substantial fund for faculty development that is being built up as a result of our strategic planning process, diversity has emerged in one of the strategic objectives that some portion of that fund will be specifically targeted to. So that's another example of a commitment to this agenda. Okay, at this point, I think we would like to turn it open for questions, comments, feedback, and we have a couple of ways to go. You can step up to the podium and speak into the mic so that your remarks can be recorded in the video that's being developed right now, or if you prefer not to do that, then we will repeat the question for you up front. So, floor is open. Yes? Here or there?
What is the academy's official's name?
The management development academy.
And if you're thinking about being next in the question and answer thing, you might want to saddle up to the podium.
Yeah, I need to say name or anything. Good to go.
Go ahead.
Mic on? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Alright. This is just a general question to all of you. It seems like in the effort to emphasize diversity on this campus, we're kind of forgetting that we should be emphasizing equality, because the two are not synonymous.
Yeah.
And it seems like when we strive so hard to fill quotas based on ethnicity and further define ourselves by ethnicity, by race, by all these other things, that we're forgetting that there are a host of white students on this campus that have many economic problems, that have many issues, that have many problems funding. What's being done to address that? You know, I mean, sure, like, I mean, I come from a background that is very diverse, but what more can we do to just further address equality as opposed to just trying to diversify our campus? That's it. That's everything.
Thank you.
You know, the model we are following institutionally is called inclusive excellence, where everybody is included, everybody. In the conference that we attended, the plan was developed, even in the cafeteria, is how do you include, diversity? And so instead of having certain kind of meals, then you include more. The gardening, so everything, that's inclusive excellence, is including everybody and in all the capacities. So, we're still developing the model. We're still in the early stages of understanding for us, how is that going to look, when we are successful. But definitely, in cross-cultural psychology, the group of people who represent the majority are allies. And allies have an important role in creating equality also, and educating themselves to become competent when they graduate from here and start working in the workforce. Majority students need to be competent in dealing with all sorts of diversity in the workplace. So definitely that's an important group. And we are hoping here in these open forums that people come and express those perspectives. So I encourage you to come and start creating that, the alliance, the allies, yeah.
Yeah, if let me emphasize a point that Elisa's making here, because I think that was, and by the way, there's an article coming out of the Press Democrat about the Peter Phillips study, in which for which I was interviewed, and I have some strong disagreements with the tenor and direction of that report, and you'll read all about it in the paper, so I won't go into a lot of detail here. But let me just say this, and I know that this has hit a bit of a sour note with some people. I wasn't thrilled with the idea of describing us as the whitest and richest campus as if those two terms were by themselves insults. The implication that somehow this is it's a bad thing. The reason why this is not about one group feeling guilty about another. It's about what does it take to make the best educational experience for all of our students. That is the driving force here. That's not to say that there hasn't been a history of racial injustice in the United States, and that doesn't go away. But the fact is that the approach now, and the inclusive excellence term really emphasizes that. It's about coming together and doing something that is good for all of us. And I think that the issue about our student body not being diverse enough is an issue not because the students that we have are bad. It's because in that kind of a less diverse student body, we're not able to provide them fully with the experiences they need to be able to be successful in a global, multicultural society. That's what that's about.
I'd like to make one just very brief comment. There's nothing in a commitment to diversity that indicates that quality is lost. The whole idea is to bring in people as students, as faculty and staff who have the knowledge, skills, and ability to succeed and to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that are here. And I think that's been an abiding commitment in the hiring process and the recruiting process as long as I've been at this institution.
It's a good segue for me, I think, because my name is Giselle Perry, and I'm currently an adjunct, happily, with a master's in counseling. But I've also been a graduate with my master's in counseling and representing migrant education on the campus as well with the MEET program. And one or two things I'd like to address are the mission of the CSU and most of the institutions in our state is that we do need to serve our state and reflect our state. And I agree what you're saying, that it doesn't make one category not as good as the other, but I think we need to reflect the population as much as possible. And you're working towards that, which I applaud, and I'm happy to be a part of it. The other part is I'd like to selfishly say, you know, there are programs on campus that have been here, like migrant education. The mini-core program, works in education, has been here for 20, 30 years, and the migrant education advisor program, which works with counselors, has been here since 1996. So I think that sometimes it's harder for us to be heard, and at times I feel we need to be sought out and reached out to. And we shouldn't be having to struggle to be heard and represented, with all due respect, because I know this is a difficult situation, difficult, comprehensive. But there are some wonderful programs already on campus. We just need to work on expanding them, hopefully with some of those resources that I've heard about. But also, there are other, with all due respect to the other organizations on campus that have been working and trying to bring diverse students, we need to maybe ask, why have they not been successful?
Exactly.
And look and see why that is. And we know there's certain reasons for that. One is, you know, whether a student's documented or not, whether a student is a resident or not. But I think we need to set up the safe space as a counselor, like you were saying, for those forums. We need to agree what makes a safe space for us to talk about this. Exactly. Because the time for ignoring the pink elephant is gone. The time outside of our walls is the real life is happening, and I think we can address it. I have respect, and I really believe in this campus and the brain power here, and I think we can do it. So respectfully, I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'd love to just say a word in response to that, if possible. One is you are absolutely right that that our efforts are in line, completely in line with wider system-wide issues. We are in many ways not responding to, but in line with the current CSU strategic plan, sometimes called Access to Excellence. And I try to make that point. The other thing that I would say is I articulated one philosophy that I go into this work with, and that is that it is about me as much as it is about anything else. But the other foundational philosophy that I personally go into this work with is we are doing 1,000 things right, and we need to know exactly what we're doing right. And in fact, I think the Ad Hoc Committee, CFA, and the PDC are committed and deeply interested, and I think you'll see this on April 3rd, and I think you'll see it really visibly next week, to inventorying is one word, assessing is one word, like learning what strengths we have on campus. So exactly as you say, we can augment those strengths or continue to exploit them, if I may so use that term. Anybody else?
I just wanted to respond to the student's question. The California Faculty Association is very committed to the whole idea of inclusive excellence. And we have been working very hard to be in collaboration with the President's Council on Diversity and the Senate's Ad Hoc Committee on Diversity. One of the things that the CFA is doing is we formed an alliance for the CSU that is working very, very hard to get monies that have been lost through the budget cuts put back in, and looking at ways that we can be effective in our bargaining around faculty raises and terms of students, we've been working very hard to push the notion that there should be no more fee increases for students. There's been a 130% increase in student fees since 2003. And we're very concerned that we're asking our students to carry a large burden for monies that are lost through budget cuts. So one of the things that we're doing is looking at how can we be more effective in recruiting a diverse faculty, how can we be more effective in recruiting a diverse student body. And we're defining diversity broadly in the sense that diversity includes all of us working together in collaboration around these issues. And certainly voices and concerns of our white students are of concern to us as well. And we are listening and we're working very hard to get their issues addressed here at Sonoma State University. We're also working on issues around multicultural competency, cultural competency issues, and I'm understanding that there's some committees that are looking at ways that we can infuse our curriculum with multicultural perspectives. We want to honor the groups that have been working very hard on diversity over the years and find we're looking at creative ways that we can work more effectively with them.
So anybody else have a question, comment? Go for it.
Good. Thank you.
But I do want to ask if anybody else has one before a person who's already spoken speaks, please.
When Jane, when you mentioned the caucuses, I didn't hear one that was about socioeconomic issues. I'm Susan Gutierrez from the Financial Aid Office. That's one of the aspects of diversity or perceived lack thereof that I see are the affordability issues.
Yeah, that was the word,
Students and
affordability.
families,
Yeah.
not only with the state university fee, but our campus fees and the cost of our on-campus housing. Are there groups in that way addressing the concerns of affordability?
We don't have a specific caucus that is looking at those issues, but what we've tried to do is develop caucuses that do meet the needs, and so this is certainly a legitimate need for our faculty and our students, and if you would join us, we would be very happy to have you be our contact person for those issues.
I'd be happy to do that.
Socioeconomic status caucus.
Yeah, and I encourage you to come to the open forums and participate at that table so we get more ideas and
Please
perspectives.
give me your name after the session. Yes, because we're in a position to form additional caucuses that are needed on this campus.
And the issues are also embedded in what the work of the Ad Hoc Committee will be doing. So we'll certainly appreciate your ideas as well.
Okay, let's turn to our.
All right.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
All right, fair enough. My name is Steve Sherritt. I'm a biochemistry major, third year at Sonoma State. And I guess this is kind of a segue from what I was saying earlier. I guess I got lost and I wrote it down just so I can be more clear and precise on what I was trying to say. I got kind of worded up on my first time up here, but my point is simple. There are plenty of other campuses, organizations, and companies that are far more diverse and suffer far more complex racial, cultural, and ethical issues than we do here at Sonoma State. My point is that I don't think we should be that we should define ourselves as a campus by filling quotas based on ethnicity, race, because there's so many others on top of that. Socioeconomic status, political ideologies, so on and so forth. But we should define our campus as one of equality, one that treats everyone the same regardless of race, ethnicity, economic status, etc. That is why I believe we should be stressing equality before we stress diversity. And that's kind of my sole premise, is that it's an issue of equality and respect and how we treat each other. It's an issue that we should be working together regardless of race, regardless of all these other things. Before we try and define ourselves by certain quotas, by how many people that we have that are Mexican or Hispanic or white or black. And that's kind of my sole purpose, is that we should be treating each other regardless of all these titles that we adopt. That's it.
Thank you.
Um,
Do you have a question?
I'd like to make a
Okay.
comment about that. I think you bring up an interesting point, and it's sort of, to really do justice to that observation, we would have to go into some detail on the evolution of the thinking along diversity, and there's a great publication by Damon Williams that I would refer you to, we may have it posted somewhere, I don't know. But if not, you can contact me and I'll give you the reference, because really the thinking and diversity has gone through several stages, culminating with this concept of inclusive excellence that we're working with now. And so really the very earliest iteration, sort of was about overcoming injustice and inequality, and emphasizing the inherent rights of all people. And there's that famous quote by Martin Luther King about, living in a society where you judge someone by the content of their character and the color of their skin. But then, subsequent to that, what has emerged is the notion of identity, and the fact that people belong to different groups and they have different perceptions about the world, different values, and that we have to be able to relate among each other in ways that are mutually respectful. And in order to do that, you can't just obliterate differences and make everybody the same, homogeneous. And that's why the idea of diversity is recognizing differences but respecting them. So it sort of incorporates equality, but also brings out the identity dimension. Okay.
So just to add to that, I just want to respond also to the students by saying that your point is exactly right. However, we can't get to this discussion about equality until all the people that we want to relate to equally are actually present.
I just want to say something too, a term that Emma used, which is multicultural perspectives. My life and my experience as a human being is enhanced by that. It's not about, oh, we need to go take care of some of those. It's like, my life is better when I hear multicultural perspectives, when I don't just sit around and talk and be and act with other people who I'm equal with, but we all happen to be white males, with the privilege of being white males. So we gain. It's not just like, oh, we're trying to fix this problem. We all gain when we have inclusive excellence, when everybody is part of that. That's my opinion.
Rashmi?
I'd like to also add that excellence and minorities are not exclusive.
I just kind of want to stress my point that these titles that we adopt, the things that, look, my parents are raised in the United States. I understand multicultural. My mom came from Mexico and that's supposed to be, trust me, I'm the definition of what this school defines as diverse. But in doing so, in adopting those titles, I'm trying to further stress myself as different. I'm exploiting myself. We treat each other as different. And what we need to do is realize that at the end of the day, all these titles that we define ourselves by, there's only one that's unique among everyone in this room. That's that we are all human beings. We have the same, at the end of the day, we have the same fundamental needs, we have the same basic wants, we have the same basic fundamental core that defines us as unique, as the same. That's my point. We are all the same. Whether or not, in these titles, and by exploiting these titles and these differences, I don't define myself as a proud, Mexican American. I define myself as a human that's no different from anyone on that table, no different than anyone in this room. And as long as we forego that, we're not really striving for equality. We're just defining ourselves as different from each other. And we need to stop doing that. Because it's the very soul of propaganda during wartime that allows horrible and atrocious acts committed in this world to happen. When we define ourselves as different, when we define ourselves as not the same, when we define a certain group of people as not human, that's when genocide occurs, that's when rapes occur, that's when horrible things occur, and that's justified. But we need to strive to address the fact that we're all the same. That's my point.
I want.
I'm going to have to bring us to a close, and I just want to say that this kind of dialogue is what we need in the forums, and the campus retreat, and I urge you in particular to join us at that time as well as all of the rest of you. And thank you very much for a great session.
Okay.